What's going on, you guys? Welcome to episode 31 of Who Gives a Dram. Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Who Gives a Dram, episode 31. We are on the Mike Piazza episode of Who Gives a Dram. Probably the best offensive catcher of all time. That's up for debate, but in my opinion, I was a catcher, so I would probably say he's at least top 3 best offensive catchers of all time. That's besides the point. Besides the point, guys. Because this is episode 31 of Who Gives a Dram, we've got a very, very awesome episode ahead. I quickly want to say go to www.snootglass.com to check out the glassware that I use every single week on Who Gives a Dram here on the podcast. At point of checkout, put in the promo code WG8020 and you will get 20% off your entire order. So that's www.snootglass.com, promo code WG8020. And also, you guys, go to The Grapevine Media and check out the cool stuff we're doing over there. www.thegrapevinemedia.com. It's awesome. It's fantastic. It is a very good website. Matt and Hunter are pumping out blogs like it's nothing. You guys go over there. And if you go to our merch store, you can enter the code LAUNCH at checkout for 15% off your entire order. So www.thegrapevinemedia.com. All right, you guys. So on today's episode, we have our first interview ever on the show. I've lined up a few interviews. Some because of scheduling conflicts have fallen through the rabbit hole. Some because of connection issues have fallen through. But I have I have Chris from Nose Your Bourbon on the podcast today. Nose Your Bourbon was the kit that I used last week to help me decipher some nosing elements in my Lafroig 10-year cask strength. So we talk today. We talk about the origins of Nose Your Bourbon, how Chris got into whiskey, what his favorite whiskeys are, what his future of the business holds, and also we review some Knob Creek 12-year small batch. So it was a great episode, you guys. I'm gonna apologize right off the bat for my audio. I'm not the most savvy when it comes to the technical stuff of the podcast. I'm getting a lot better. I do everything myself, you guys. I don't have a producer. I don't have anything. I don't outsource anything. I'm editing everything on my own. And I think what happened was my Yeti microphone here wasn't connected to the Zoom call. I was using my computer audio. So it's not going to be up to my standards, and I'm actually pretty upset about it. It's actually been keeping me up. But you know, it is what it is. You live and you learn. I'm going to get better, and it's still a quality interview. Chris is such a good guy, and I can't thank him enough for coming on. So I hope you can look past my subpar audio on this episode. It will get better for future interviews, but just enjoy what Chris has to say, because this Nose Your Bourbon kit is seriously awesome. It's such a great nosing kit. You have actual product in little canisters. It's not just a perfume that some scientist is making, telling you what you should smell and what you think something should smell like. You have the actual product in here. There's no bullshit about it. And Chris is just a whiskey head, just like all of us. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to transition this into our interview, and I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Who Gives a Dram. You might be thinking, Connor, this looks a little different this week. And that's because we have a very special guest on the podcast this week. You guys, you saw me use my Nose Your Bourbon kit last week on the podcast to help me decipher some smells, although it was Scotch. It still works, Chris. It does still work for Scotch. I can tell you that firsthand. But I got Chris from Nose Your Bourbon on the podcast this week. Chris, what's going on, brother?
Good, doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing real good, man. I'm doing real good. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. I'm so excited to have you on. And I'm excited to get into this fantastic kit that you have that you're selling, that you're pushing, and man, it is fantastic. I told you this off the camera. This is by far my favorite nosing kit. I know there's a few different types, and this thing is legit
this thing is just a beast. I love it. So before we get into Nose Your Bourbon, man, I want everyone to know we are going to do a little review today as well. We're both drinking some Knob Creek 12-year small batch.
Yep.
And I'm notoriously not a Knob Creek fan. Chris gave me a some hope a few days ago when he said he was getting some sweeter notes. I never get sweeter notes in Knob Creek, so we'll get right into it. So, Chris, what made you start Nose Your Bourbon? I guess that's the easiest way to put it. What was the inspiration behind it? And kind of just go into what made you want to start a nosing kit specifically for bourbons.
For sure, yeah. And for those that are not, familiar with the concept of nosing kit, it's a collection of ingredients. Sometimes it's perfume based, chemical aromas. Sometimes it's the real thing. My kit happens to be the real thing. So you're smelling charred oak, you're smelling dried cherry, you're smelling brown sugar, and the idea is that everybody's pretty much smelled those ingredients before. But when's the last time you smelled it right before you went to nose a glass of bourbon or whiskey? So it's that quick recall, that ability to go in and nose brown sugar or cinnamon or cracked corn, and then go right to the glass and try to find that nose in your glass is really where this kit started from. So when I got into bourbon, gosh, it's probably 7 or 8 years ago now, I started looking around at just different tasting notes and people that were reviewing whiskeys and giving these unbelievably detailed notes, and I'm like, man, I'm not getting those things. So it's either a lack of experience or these writers are just full of it, and I got to figure this out. For me, can I get to that level? Can I ever train my palate? Can I train my nose to find those nuances in what I'm drinking every day, and actually enjoy the same glass of bourbon 10 times more because I'm able to sit down and dissect it? And so that set me off on this journey to kind of investigate this whole thing. I found some super nice but super expensive nosing kits out there that are just that. They're perfume based, chemically made aromas, where you're smelling an aroma that's made to smell like caramel or corn or cherry. And I was like, oh, that's cool. It's expensive, for $300 I could buy a lot of bottles of bourbon. Maybe I can make something myself. Maybe I can DIY this thing. And so I kind of set off to raid the spice cabinet at first and pulled brown sugar and cinnamon, all these common tasting notes that I was kind of reading as I was reading through different writers that were writing tasting notes about new bourbons, and really started there and just kind of came up with a collection of 18 that I felt really represented. If you guys have ever seen the bourbon tasting wheel, where you've kind of got 5 categories and then they split out from there. You've got fruit, wood, grain, spice, and sweet notes, and then it kind of bicycle spokes out from there. So inside of the sweet category, you might get brown sugar or caramel or vanilla, these different notes. So where I always encourage everybody is when you're new to bourbon or whiskey, and even if you're not, if you're trying to get a little better, more descriptive about your tasting notes, start with those inner categories. When you nose and taste this bourbon, do you get fruit? Do you get sweet? Do you get spice? That's a fantastic place to start. Don't be discouraged if you can't even get those right away. This is a learning process. I don't claim to have like the perfect palate, this amazing thing all figured out. I'm learning every day, and I still use my kit, also to better myself. But start with those inner categories and then see if you can get just one level deeper. If it's sweet, what kind of sweet? Can you describe it a little bit more? Is it brown sugar? Is it dark chocolate? Is it white chocolate? Kind of get one level deeper, and it just creates for a more interesting conversation. And ultimately, as you kind of jot your notes down about the bourbons that you've tried and tasted, you may be able to recommend something to a friend because you know that they love something super spicy. They love something with a ton of fruit characteristic. So that's really where it started for me.
So just a love for whiskey, which is kind of self-explanatory. You wouldn't make this if you didn't love whiskey. But looking at these products and thinking, these kits right now are all pre-made, like you said, more perfume based. being made, chemically stored. And it's like, why pay for that when you can just make the real thing? Because the real thing's always more authentic. It's like smelling a leather car scent versus leather, like a leather baseball glove. That's totally. When I think of leather, it's always my old catcher's mitt from when I played baseball, and I think of that, and it takes me somewhere, and that's what I get with your kit, because you open up the vanilla and there's vanilla sticks. You open up the black pepper and there's black pepper. You open up the leather, there's little strips of leather in there. It's freaking awesome. So I think it's a more genuine experience for me, at least. If I'm taking this whiskey and I'm getting a fruit note, and I can open up your cherry aroma and there's cherries in there. There's dried cherries in there, and I can get what an actual cherry is smelling like, not what a perfume professional says I should smell with cherry. Because a lot of the times what you think you should smell and what you do smell are two completely different things. Case in point, the leather car scent versus the leather baseball mitt. Taking a 100% leather mitt versus a car scent, in my opinion, is two completely different things.
Yeah, and I've had people tell me time and time again, like if I say caramel or brown sugar, you immediately have an idea of what that aroma smells like. Most people have smelled that at least once in their life. But when was the last time you smelled it while drinking bourbon? And so a lot of people are like, man, I actually thought that note was caramel, and now I'm finding that it's actually honey. Like I was not expecting that. And as I'm smelling through these different ingredients, that is 100%, that's a honey aroma. And so it actually helps people it's fun to kind of smell through, taste through your bourbon and jot some notes, and then come back to the kit and literally nose one ingredient and go to the glass and go, is that vanilla? No, I'm not getting vanilla. Is that caramel? Yeah, actually that's totally caramel. And then you write down caramel. So it's a way to kind of test yourself and see if you're really picking up what you think you are.
Yeah, and I've already done that with a lot of my whiskeys too, because I got so curious. I wanted to see if I actually smelled vanilla. I would go back to my old reviews and be like, all right, did I actually smell this? Or am I is Chris gonna prove that I'm a dummy? Or am I actually smelling this? And a lot of the times I did, but sometimes I picked up new notes based on what was in your kit. So I'm thinking now might be an appropriate time to kind of see what we're both smelling here on this Knob Creek 12. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting a pretty pleasant aroma on this thing.
Yeah, I definitely get the oak. It's pretty in the forefront. I'm not going to say that it's hiding oak, but I also get some sweetness to go with that. It's almost, for me, it's landing a little bit marshmallow, like that burnt sugar.
I'm definitely getting burnt sugar, a sugary note.
And this is this is a fairly fresh pour. I probably should have let this air out a little bit. I mean, we're only at 100 proof here, but on the nose, I would actually, if this was a blind, I would think this was higher than 100 proof. I'm getting a lot of spice off of it.
A little bit of ethanol I'm getting.
Yeah.
Just a faintness, just on the really back end of the nose. But yes, I was gonna ask you if you were getting spice as well, because I think I'm getting oak and spice forefront, where that burnt sugar, marshmallows in there. I'm thinking more of like almost like a sugar cookie, and that's that might not be the most perfect thing, but that's what I'm getting. It's like a spicy sugar cookie.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about this, is like whenever you're jotting down your own notes or just talking with friends, like there are no wrong answers. If you get sugar cookie and I get marshmallow and like toasted oak or whatever, nobody's wrong in this equation. That's what's so fun about this. Right. But you can start to find the things that you like and the commonalities between different bourbons and whiskeys. And one of my favorite things to do, which I haven't done in a while, is blind tasting, because everybody thinks they know what they like. Everybody thinks they know the brands that they like. But if you can sit down with 3 glasses maybe you've marked them on the bottom and switched them around so you can kind of trick yourself, or if you have somebody else at home that can help pour them for you, and jump into 3 blinds and just assess them for what they are. Forget price point, forget brand, forget any preconceived notion about, oh, I should like this, or I know I don't like that because it's made by this producer. And just jump in and evaluate it for what it is so much fun. And normally you'll be blown away by at least one of the pours in a flight, is what I find.
Yeah, I'm excited to do that. I just picked up the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof B521 yesterday.
Nice.
And I unfortunately finished off my B520. I think I did it on the podcast. I think I poured out the entire bottle, if I'm not mistaken. So I have the 920, I have the A121, and I now have the B521. So I'm excited to blind those because notoriously I strive, or I gravitate towards a higher proof. And I'm excited to see, because one of my favorite pours right now is Old Forester 1920, and that's sitting at 115 proof. And I believe B521 is 116 proof. I could be wrong.
Is it really?
It's floating right around there. Yeah, it's the lowest proof that Elijah Craig Barrel Proof has released yet. But I'm excited.
That's super low.
It's super low, but there are some very, very, very good pours sitting at that proof. Most notably, Old Forester 1920 and Rare Breed, Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Sitting at 116 proof.
Man, that is
one of the best barrel
for $60.
I know. All right, so Trish is jumping into the taste. I was just about to taste as well. You guys, as always, cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
To the taste.
I wasn't really picking this up on the nose, but caramel and vanilla. It's almost like a caramel vanilla ice cream, or like ice cream that's got those caramel ribbons throughout it. Like I'm getting this kind of dairy creaminess, that caramel sweetness. It's just delicious.
See, when I sip whiskey, the first sip always just goes back. I just coat my mouth because I haven't had any.
This is my first pour today too. It's I always tell people, like, your first pour is basically a throwaway. Like, it's going to shock your system if you've been drinking water or soda all day. Like, nothing's going to wake you up like like some 100 proof bourbon or whiskey. So
you're right.
Definitely a little acclimation.
So while I'm gonna let this sit in my mouth for a bit, and really get my mouth coated so I can get some proper tasting notes here to the best of my ability. I want to know, Chris, you kind of went into why you started the nosing kit, why you started, what prompted you to start this? What got you into whiskey in general? Well, what made you fall in love with whiskey enough to pursue this venture here?
Yeah, it's funny. I was in college and I knew that I wanted to go grab a bottle of something, and I didn't know what that something was, that I didn't need 15 ingredients to mix together with a cocktail and always have fresh things on hand. Funny enough, fast forward 8 years and now I'm super into cocktails too. But but at that time I was like, I don't want to mess with all that stuff. I just want something simple that I can pour into the glass and enjoy it straight out of the bottle. I don't know if that's whiskey, if that's bourbon. So I went to my local Total Wine and grabbed an associate. I'm like, hey, kind of explained what I was looking for. I forget what they pulled for me. I think it was an Irish whiskey, actually. And to this day, bourbon has my heart, and as far as in the whiskey category. So that Irish whiskey, whatever it was a bit of a challenge for me to finish and really get into and enjoy. And so I was kind of like, all right, I paid $50-$60 for this. I'm not going to pour it out. I'm going to make it through. It took me almost a year, I think, to finish that one bottle. And I kind of dismissed whiskey as a category at that point. And a couple years later, I was in the store and I saw a bottle of Bullet bourbon on the shelf, and something about that frontier looking bottle and that cool packaging. I was like, man, this is it had me. And I was so intrigued by it. I was like, I got to pick that. That looks like something really old, really cool. And I picked it up and brought it home. And that's when I was like, oh, this is what bourbon is all about. This brown sugar caramel. I didn't have those descriptors to put with it just yet, but that flavor profile was so different from the Irish whiskey I'd had. I was like, this
Right.
is delicious. And this is why people like bourbon. I get this. And so that kind of set me off. Like almost everything I do in life, whether it's craft beer or bourbon or food or whatever, I'd rather have like the appetizer sampler or the flight or whatever than commit to one thing. And so that's how my collection grew. And don't tell my wife, but now we're sitting at over 150 bottles. So it's
Well,
like
yeah,
one thing leads to another.
them,
And yeah,
you got them proudly
absolutely.
displayed
So
behind you. It looks like you have a fantastic collection back
it's
there.
I appreciate that, man. It's so much fun. And being able to one of the coolest things that really solidified me in the bourbon community too was just how generous everybody was. There was
Oh yeah,
everybody's so willing to share, and like somebody got a hold of this cool bottle, and because it's open and they're drinking it, like you can totally have a pour of it. And it's something that I never would have. It would have been $100-$200 at a bar, something amazing, Happy 23 or something like that I've been fortunate to try. And
yep.
everybody's just so dang generous, and I love that about the bourbon community. And so that's something that I always wanted to kind of give back to that too, as people I find that are new into the hobby. They're like, what should I try? I'm like, let me fix you a sample set and I'll ship it out to you in the mail or something like that. So I think that's so cool.
The bourbon community is great like that. I've experienced the same thing. And it's funny. This is another thing we messaged about beforehand. My my bourbon journey or my whiskey journey started the same way with
Yeah, that's right.
Bullet Rye. Bullet started with Bullet Rye. Transitioned. I got a bottle of Bullet Bourbon for Christmas. I think it was the Christmas after I turned 21. So 2017, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, because I'm turning 25 this year.
Nice.
And yeah, that's how my whiskey journey started too. Obviously, I'm still we're all always learning about it, but it's kind of just engulfed my entire life at this point, which I'm not mad about. And
No, totally.
I agree that the bourbon community and the whiskey community in general is fantastic. And, I've been fortunate enough to get some really cool samples as well, and to meet some incredible people. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm gonna. Top three pours. Top three pours right now. What are your go-tos?
Gosh, that's tough. So this bottle, this pour, and it really doesn't matter what year, but this William LaRue Weller, almost any year that I've tried has been an absolute knockout for me. There's not that many barrel proof wheaters out there, number one, which is kind of cool. But something about that, like I get a ton of cherry on most Buffalo Trace products, and that is just like this cherry honey, finishes forever. The proof is right. It is just freaking fantastic. So that's a top three for me for sure. The Handy actually was crazy good too from last year, the 2020 Handy. This blew me away because I hadn't had much Handy, but this I heard was peach cobbler on with ice cream on it. I'm like, no way, this is crazy. So like, went out and found a bottle, and totally agree with that. It is just stewed peaches, that bread, cobbler, the sweet vanilla ice cream. It is freaking dessert and delicious. So those are probably top two. And I just gave some mad props to Buffalo Trace. I'm looking around. I mean, I love almost anything Four Roses puts out. A lot of their barrel proofs. It took me almost 2 years, but I finally collected all 10 recipes at barrel strength. And I did. This was a while. Yeah, man, it took forever. I went through this before I was really into rye. I went through and blind tasted all of the E recipes and then all of the B recipes blind. And I noted my favorites and had this whole bracket system. And so I came away with my priority list of my top down favorites. And I need to do it again because I wasn't really into rye at the time. And as you know, Four Roses has one of the highest rye contents in their bourbon at 35% with their B recipe. So I need to do that one again. But they, in my eyes, can do no wrong. So huge fan of Four Roses too.
Oh yeah. That's a solid lineup, man. I've had the opportunity. I've had the William LaRue Weller. I had the 2017. That was a dangerous night. That was a long night of drinking. So I don't really remember the tasting notes with that particular whiskey.
Yeah.
My brother is gonna laugh at that because he knows there's a little inside joke there. But I agree with you, man. I think you can never go wrong Buffalo Trace. I mean, it can never really go wrong with anything. I've never had a bad whiskey. I've had whiskeys that are not nearly as good as others, but I have yet to find a whiskey that I would willingly pour down the drain. And I think if someone does do that, I think that's in a way disrespectful to the
totally
whoever made it, you know, because there's always passion behind it, and you know, to each their own. I wouldn't do it. I mean, if other people do it, it's fine. I say like, hey, if you're gonna pour it out, just give it to me. I've actually taken bottles where it's like, exactly. Dude, don't pour that out. I will take it. I will drink it for something. I will make a whiskey sour. I will make a cocktail. I will face it on a bad day. I'll use it with a cigar. You know what I mean? So it's like,
there you go.
I agree. I bet those are great picks, man. So let's go quickly into what we're tasting here. So you're getting a more you're getting a sweeter taste on this again, huh?
I am, and it's funny. Like, I tasted this the other night too, just to see, because it had been a while before I revisited it and jotted down some notes. It's funny how day to day your palate can change too, based on what you had for lunch or dinner that day. Especially if you had spicy food or if you had black coffee a few hours before, like your palate is going to be different. It's going to hit differently. Tonight I'm picking up way more spice than I was the other night. The other night was very dessert-like, very sweet. I'm trying to figure out if the spice is coming from the dryness of the oak or if it's an actual like, if it's like a black pepper or cinnamon spice. It is a drying spice though, which leads me to think that it's from the oak.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's got a very dry mouthfeel.
Yep.
I'm definitely getting a forward spice, and it's not, to me, it's not very hot though. It's not a hot spice. It's not a rye forward spice. So I tend, it might be that dried oak, spice, but there is a bit of, again, it's not as present as on the nose, but just a bit of what I'm thinking might be more of a vanilla sweetness. I don't know if that's actually what I'm tasting, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. It's different than the nose, because the nose, it's more like a sugary, but this is almost more like a tamed down. The oak and the spice is forward on this Dram for sure. It's not what you would consider a sweet whiskey. With, you know, at any point, I don't think someone say this is a sweeter bourbon.
Right. I almost never get cherry on Jim Beam products. I usually get peanut, which is not something I'm really picking up at all on this pour.
Nor
usually they're peanut brittle, that kind of peanut powder bomb. I'm really not getting that. On the finish, this is funny. Is your brain can take like components of what you're tasting and then go, wait, what do all those individual flavors exist in? And that's where you come up with something crazy like, like a peach cobbler or something. Like, oh, you're really tasting peach cobbler? Well, I tasted stewed peaches and like cobbler and ice and vanilla. So my mind goes, hey, that's peach cobbler. But I get this like Dr. Pepper thing on the finish, this cherry, vanilla, little bit of like carbonation, tingle. And so like my mind is going, that's Dr. Pepper. It's like a spicy Dr. Pepper.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. I was thinking, on the back, it's got a fairly long finish. especially for 100 proof. I think it stays with you for a bit.
Yeah,
It's
agree with
definitely
that.
hotter on the finish than it is, on the taste.
Yep.
I was thinking more of like along the lines of a I'm getting like a tobacco sweetness. Like
Interesting.
it's like for me, I'm really correlating this whiskey with on the back end with a cigar. And maybe it's because I'm
Yeah.
craving a cigar right now. That could be why. It's
Yeah.
Thursday night. It's Thursday night. Tomorrow's Friday. Tomorrow's usually cigar night for me. So maybe I'm craving that a day early.
There
But
you
I'm
go.
I'm really getting, I think, more of like I think, and that's, you just did the same thing. I'm gonna do that too. I think a lot of people, when they think of tobacco, they think of they don't think of like sweet tobacco. I
Yeah.
think they correlate it more with like a drier, woodier smell.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
tobacco, is a sweeter substance.
Yep. Yeah. So this is genuine pipe tobacco in
Yeah.
the original kit, and I don't think we actually mentioned this yet. There's actually two kits out now that I've put out. So there's the original kit that has the 18 most common, you know, aromas that you might find in a bourbon, and then I recently launched within the last couple of weeks an expansion kit that kind of takes where the original kit left off and takes it 18 different elements, right? So one
Right.
of the things that I knew I wanted to play up was more fruit notes in the expansion kit. In the original, there's dried cherry, and that's, I feel like, the most common one. But there are some other, like on some of Buffalo Trace store picks, I get this apricot note. And so I've got dried apricot in the expansion kit. I've got orange and lemon, dried
Yep.
orange and lemon peel, coconut, which I think is really fun to find on some of the toasted expressions that are coming out now, like the Elijah Craig toasted. There's a plum or a prune to represent the dried red fruits, and there's
Oh yeah.
also dried rosebuds. So some of that floral notes that I do actually get on Four Roses from time to time. So yeah, the expansion kit is fun. It really kind of takes the original 18 and just blows it wide open with 18 new ingredients to find.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that. I would say, I think we should get into maybe giving this whiskey a rating. What's
Okay.
what are your initial thoughts as to, where you're gonna rank this? And I know you watch the show. You feel free to give a decimal rating.
Yeah.
Maybe explain your score beforehand. If you can do decimals, man, you even go to 2 decimals if you want. But I think I have an idea of what I'm gonna score it. But I want to hear yours
Nice.
first to make sure mine's not totally
Do you?
out of this
Yeah,
world.
totally. Do you give a separate score to nose, taste, and finish, or you get just one overall score?
Overall. Well, you can
Gotcha.
you can explain you can explain what you're doing through each step,
Yeah.
but I just give an overall.
Yeah, I think the nose is fantastic. I really like it. The taste, a lot of times you'll know something and then you'll go to taste it and it's totally different. Your mind was set up for
Yeah.
one thing, you go to taste it, you're like, wow, that was not at all. I think it's different notes, but for me it's in the same family. It's still those kind of sweeter notes for me. Definitely that dried oak, that oak spice plays through in both the nose and the palate for me. That finish is something that I don't talk about a ton, but when it's really good and when it's long, it's total bonus points for me. So
Yeah.
this one, I would give this, if we're going decimals, I'd give this an 8.9. I think that's a solid score.
Okay.
Um, I this is a definite buy for me. If you see this at retail, this is a definite pickup for me.
Yeah. And I should have mentioned this before because I always do. Beam Suntory is the company that's distilled by Jim Beam. It's 12-year 100 proof. 77% corn, 13% rye, and 10% malted barley mash bill, which makes sense as to why, some of those spicier notes are coming forward for both of us.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, Chris, you haven't seen it this cheap out your way, but overall on the internet, this is an MSRP for $60. So we'll say
That's
60 to 70, 80 being a
yeah.
higher range.
Yeah.
Um, For me, I agree with you. This is a very pleasant nose. It's actually much more pleasant than I remember. I think the taste is in the same ballpark. However, I don't quite enjoy the palate as much as the nose. That being
Okay.
said, I really enjoy that what I get, and especially, this is why I love your kit. Going to your kit, it kind of confirmed to me that, okay, yeah, that's what my brain's picking up. I'm picking up a tobacco finish. It's just kind of
Yeah.
helping me identify what I'm thinking. And
Yeah.
I do enjoy that. It's giving me bonus points. I was going to go a little bit lower than this, but I think we're right around the same edge, the same ballpark here. I'm going 8.5. I think this is
Nice.
definitely a dram that is worthy being on the shelf, especially if you can find it for an MSRP for an appropriate price. I don't know if I'd go out of my way to find this, but if it was, if I had the opportunity to buy it, if I saw it for a good price, I would probably jump on it. I just don't know if I'd go out of my way to get a Knob Creek 12, but
Yeah.
I enjoy it, man. I enjoy it. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little before off air. Is when this came out, this got a lot of bad press because months earlier, Knob Creek picks were 14, 15-year-old, and most stores were what, $49.99 for a 14 or 15-year Knob Creek pick. They're like, why would I pay 60 or 70 for a 12-year small batch product? And I think
Right.
what this shows is that sometimes blending, actually many times, blending they call it a small batch. I'm not sure how small it is for Jim Beam, but blending a
I'm sure
batch
it's
of
fairly
different
large.
I would say so.
Yeah.
But blending a batch of bourbons together, the sum can be greater than the parts, right? And so
Yes.
this is very well thought out. It's very well blended. It's not just a straight oak bomb. It's not just a peanut bomb. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of interesting stuff. And we've talked about it here for 30 plus minutes. It's given us a nice conversation point. So for $60, this is easy for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. This is solid. Before I let you go, I want to, the last question I want to ask you is, Nose Your Bourbon is wildly popular. It's only becoming more popular throughout, it's what it seems like every single day. With that being said, where do you want this to go? What's the end game with Nose Your Bourbon? What do you see this becoming as time progresses?
That's a great question. Something I've thought about a lot is, my primary storefront is Etsy. So you can go to knowsyourbourbon.etsy.com and pick up the original or the expansion kit. Father's Day is right around the corner. The deadline, I'm not sure when this will air, but the deadline for orders is June 13th, just to give me time to get everything filled and packaged up and get that out the door. So get your orders in by the 13th if you're looking for a Father's Day gift. But
I think this might unfortunately air after that. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but still, you can still pick it up. You can give dad a gift a little bit late. He's not going to care. What 100%. Dad's going to care? No, I know my dad doesn't really care about Father's Day. He's going to be up. He's going to be doing his own thing anyway. So Still pick it up for Father's Day, you guys. Come on, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. So something where I'd love to see this is. I have some other online retailers that I've been working with that are buying the kits wholesale in bulk and reselling them through their online stores. I think that's super cool. What I'd love to see down the road is distilleries carrying this kit in their gift shops and including it as a part of their tasting and tour experience. So imagine that you go and tour your favorite local distillery and you get the tour and the tasting, and they're using my kit to literally interactively taste and pull out notes of their product, and then maybe as a thank you gift or as a part of that VIP experience, you get to go home with a kit. And what a cool extension of the brand to be able to take that home and kind of remember that experience. And that's right, like they were showing me how wheat and black pepper and cherry and all these different fun notes were present in their bourbon. I totally get that at home. I can kind of play this up and relive that experience that I had at that distillery. So I'd love to see that. I think that could be really cool. Another thing that I'd love to get into is hosting tastings too, right? So something where, maybe I come out and maybe I supply the bourbon, or maybe the bourbon's already there, however that works. But we just get a group of people together and we taste through 3 or 4 or 5 products together, and we all kind of talk about how to taste bourbon, how to cleanse your palate between pours, what's a good nosing technique, talk about proper glassware, the importance of what you ate earlier that day, like we touched on a minute ago, but just kind of walk people through, here's what I'm tasting. I'd love to hear what you're tasting, because the power of suggestion is real. If I say that I taste cherry, all of a sudden everybody in the room tastes cherry. So I never want to lead someone with that psychology down the road, but maybe someone can throw out a sweet note, and then I can play off that and say, great, can we go one step deeper and kind of use this kit to pull out those nuances. So I think that'd be a really fun side of the business that, I love sharing my bourbon. I love tasting with other people. So I think that could be a really fun part of this.
Well, man, let me know when you're doing your tastings. I will definitely buy a ticket, and I am there. 100% I am there. Chris, thank you so much, man, for coming on the podcast. It means a lot. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything, where can people find you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at Nose Your Bourbon on Instagram and Facebook. My storefront is noseyourbourbon.etsy.com. That's NOSE, noseyourbourbon.etsy.com. Beyond just the original and the expansion kit, you'll also find a bundle. So I found 2 other sellers on Etsy that were doing amazing work. One of them that does these handmade leather bourbon tasting note journals. And so the outside is genuine leather. I mean, you talk about getting that leather note. My gosh, just smell that journal. It's amazing. But it's got bourbon stamped into the cover of it. It's got a little loop. I wish I had one right here to show you, but it has a little loop where you can slide a pen in there. So I found a pen manufacturer on Etsy that's taking Jack Daniel's whiskey barrels and turning them down and creating pens out of them. So it's got the real char marks, and it's from a Jack Daniel's barrel stave, which is just so cool. So you can buy the whole bundle that comes with a couple of Glencairns. It's got the journal, the pen. So it's literally like a just add bourbon. If you've got that kit and you just add some bourbon, you can have a really fun time kind of dissecting these pours that you're going through.
Awesome, man. So yeah, at Nose Your Bourbon on Instagram and Facebook, you guys make sure you give Chris a follow. Chris, again, man, I appreciate this. This was an awesome conversation. I hope we can do it again, man. And like I said, once you blow up and you're selling tickets to international tastings, sign me up. I'm there. Thank you so much, man, for coming on. This means the world to me. Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it so much. All right, you guys. Thanks, Chris, again. Cheers. Cheers, y'all. See you.
All right, you guys. Well, there you have it. Our interview with Chris from Nose Your Bourbon. I had such a great time talking with Chris on the podcast today, and you guys, I really believe in this Nose Your Bourbon kit. I think it's the best one on the market. Check out Chris on Instagram at Nose Your Bourbon. Go to his Etsy store. It's in his Instagram bio. Get one of these Nose Your Bourbon kits, you guys. It's seriously, if you are a whiskey novice, a whiskey snob, a whiskey connoisseur, kind of medium in the game, or even if you're buying it as a gift for someone that you likes whiskey, I guarantee yourself or someone you're buying for will appreciate this as a gift, as anything, really. Just pick it up. It's awesome. And I wouldn't be saying it's awesome if I didn't fully agree that it's the best nosing kit on the market. And I think Chris is going to take this to the moon, you guys. I think this is going to be a huge product here coming up very soon. I can tell that Chris is in love with this. This is something that means a lot to him, and I am going to continue to support him. Chris, just thanks again for coming on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 31. We have a lot more interviews coming down the pipeline, you guys. We have some cool guests coming. I've got some really interesting content coming down the line, I guess. And I apologize again for the audio, you guys. That's on me. I'm taking the hit on that. I'm gonna get better with that. It's kept me up for 2 nights, but it is what it is. So, you guys, you can really help out the podcast. You can really help out Who Gives a Dram if you go on to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Subscribe, like, comment, share. That's a really important thing. If you share my content, you guys, the more people that see it, the more people that tune in, the farther we can take this thing. And I really want to take this Who Gives a Dram as far as it can. I want to talk to some really incredible people. I want to collaborate with some really incredible people and products. So, the only way we can do that is if you guys who listen to the show share it, like, subscribe, rate it on iTunes. That really helps a lot as well. Spread the word. Spread the Who Gives a Dram word. Other than that, you guys, you can follow me on Instagram at Who Gives a Dram. Again, you can subscribe. And that's about it. I think that's gonna do it. I am gonna go drink some whiskey. And I'm gonna catch you guys next week with some more whiskey talk. So, Nick Bossy, my brother, Pretty New Diamond, play me out. I'll catch you guys later.
Up in New England, that girl sure loved me. We got together and brought things to life. So I did buy her a pretty new diamond. Ask that sweet woman if she'd be my wife. There was a kind of feeling love songs are made of. With that sweet woman, spend the rest of my life. She came along, I was hurting, but at the end of my tunnel I saw no light. Fast forward a few months later. She broke my heart and I can't keep going. Guess I'll just sit here and get drunk tonight. Vows they meant nothing and she ran to a stranger. And with Johnny Walker I'm passing my time. I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I could cry. Gave me back that pretty new diamond and broke my heart a second time. But I got the last laugh when I pawned off her ring, 'cause I bought me a dime bag and a case of Coors Light. And I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I could cry. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I could